Yeah.
But yeah, he's a good character.
Yeah, I actually, while you were saying that, I'm trying to sit up here and reboot, and it says that I'm live again because they did respond that it was frozen. So now we're live again. So hopefully they'll come back, and hopefully YouTube is doing the same thing that they did before when I was live, is to record everything after the live. So maybe we'll have like 2 of these going up. But we were talking about Zachary, and actually I did even dog ear, not dog ear because I don't do that. I put these nice little tabs that don't interrupt anything on the book, and it's just so beautiful, first of all. But I tabbed that part of Zachary when he after Zella, the mother. Ooh, that woman. But that's what I loved about Zachary, because he could calm her down or kind of ignore her.
Like he put her in her place. Like,
yes, he did. And when
her, like, hey, you need to chill, like, because that was one of, I don't know if this is what you're about to bring up, but that's like I said. Like, he got real on her, and I think, you know, that's basically what she needed. Like,
exactly,
sometimes she needed to be checked. Man, like Zella was something else. Like,
Zella was
the perfect antagonist. Like,
yeah,
she was something else.
Yeah,
that was like Zella. That's why I was. It was funny because one of my friends was like, you need to contact Oprah or send this book to like something. I'm like, you know who I should send the book to? Like, I should send the book to Angela Bassett, because I was like, she would be the perfect Zella. Like,
oh my goodness, yes, yes, yes.
I should write her a note. Like, hey, you're gonna win an Oscar if you get somebody to make a movie out of this.
Exactly. Yeah, she would make a really good Zella, because she can flick a cigarette like nobody else. She has some Zella attitude.
I know. The whole time, all I keep thinking is, get your shit.
And also, kind of, like I said, being the balance of Dale, like, as much as did rile you up in this book with his racism and his abuse to his wife, you had somebody as good and solid as Michael, of course, but also in a fatherly role as Zachary. So when this part where Zella is about to get on Zendaya's nerve, and her and Zoe, and she's just not understanding. She's a little jealous of her 2 daughters' relationship. And she's fuming, and so here comes Zachary, and he's just coming in with 2 cups of hot coffee, and I'm like, yes, he's here to set the mood again. He's here to calm things down and put out some fires. And so I really liked his character, and there were many good characters in here. And actually, I really, there's a place for every single last one of your characters. Rightfully so, positioned so perfectly in this tragedy that it became real. And just reading this whole book was like having a relationship with it. And what I loved more than anything is it was like you, the writer, was talking to the reader with those little, in parentheses, these little jokes. And it was like, yeah, I'm still here. Let me catch your attention.
You know how much I had to fight with editors because of that.
But why?
I took this book like through. The book went through like 5 edits, like 5 or 6 edits.
Yeah.
And because I was like, I'm not putting out a book. Like, the one thing I never wanted to see in my reviews is, it would have been great if it didn't have all these errors. So I mean, I went through, like, I had professional editors look at it, and I swear they fought me tooth and nail on those parts. Like, they did not they wanted the narrator to basically be, simple, and I'm like, no, like, I wanted to feel like I'm sitting down talking to someone and having a story. Like,
yes, and like, I'm glad you won. Yeah, I'm so glad.
I wanted to feel like, just like how you described it. I wanted the reader to feel like they came over, sat on my couch, and I was like, hey man, you wouldn't believe what happened at work.
Definitely.
Like, that's how I
Yes.
wanted this, how I wanted it to read.
And it did, because in the I swear I wish I could have just kept that recording, or just recorded most of it from another source. But that's one of the things that I was mentioning, how I appreciate. Okay, I'm remembering some of the things that I said. One of the things that I said, especially opening up the book, I think when I started the other video, I was talking about page number 4, but everyone that follows this channel knows that I read everything, the introduction, the prologue, the how, just all of it. So I was showing that because I really do. And like, I just read a book recently, here in Henry Louis Gates. Oh my gosh, can't remember his name. You know the man. And the introduction that he did to this book for Penguin, talking about African American women. I think I still have it. Haven't taken it back to the library yet, but it's amazing. The introduction alone should win a Pulitzer. That man knows how to write an introduction. So I read everything. And so when I open this book and I'm reading the author's note, I read just a little bit of it, I think, on the other video, but that feeling that I got, like, okay, this is the author talking to me. And I was laughing, like, first things first, second things second. Okay, let's keep it going. Third things third, right? And I was like, oh, I just love this. And I didn't lose that. So throughout the book, he continues to do this and make you feel that he's still ever present. So that's why it felt like I had a relationship going on with this book. And like I said on the other video, y'all know, if y'all have been subscribed to me, when I finish a good book, what do? I usually reach out, and I went online and called Percival Everett. Yes, I did. One of my favorite writers of all time. And his secretary told me he was on hiatus or sabbatical, is what she said. But he'll be back and such and such. Did you want to leave him? And I looked at the phone like, this woman was going to let me talk to my favorite writer. If he had been there, I would be on the phone. What would I say? Would I faint? I'm like, oh my God. So Sister Soldier, no disrespect, first book I read of hers, nonfiction. I loved it. I sent her an email, and then The Coldest Winter Ever. I sent her another email. This woman, when you send her an email, she sends you an email back. I love her, have all kind of respect for her. Yes. And Midnight, sent her another. I said, this is, she took the character Midnight out of a book and made him. That's what I love about just constantly following a writer, because you get to see what matters to them most, what characters that they pluck out and just keep letting you ride with them. And I love that. And so I sent Mr. Eliot a message. I was like in the middle of the book and I'm going, oh my God. And I just typed and I was like, I love you. Oops. I was like, I don't care. I am who I am. And I'm just typing. So I was like, oh my God.
What was the best part, and the best part to me of all this is that, I think people go in thinking one thing when they read the book or when they see the cover, and then when they read it, like it surprises them in a way that they don't expect it. Like nobody expects it. Like I think everybody has their idea, like, oh, it's a independent book, it's this and that. But I think once they start getting into it, that thought never comes up. They just read the story and
exactly.
I've gotten so many inboxes like, oh my God, like that part with Zendaya, like that was me. You just understand, like a lot of people really related to that, and I yes, I wrote it, but I really did have a really good team of women to make sure that, Zendaya came off as very authentic, because that made me feel good. So.
Yeah, the cover is beautiful. Even the back of it is like one of my favorite parts. That door with the keys in it. I don't know. I like stuff like that because I like old houses and all the the stuff that goes into it. And so, the one thing. Okay, now as you guys know, I was talking about independent writers and publishing houses. And when I was talking to Stephanie, who was the second book that I was going to be talking about this evening, I'm not sure she's still in the chat with all these problems. I don't blame y'all for not being here. It's okay. It's not your fault at all. But what happened is, like, one of the things that I totally loved, and I was watching Tyree Jones today when I was getting ready, and she had this quote within. I think they were at her house just looking at her bookcases, and she was holding up all these book covers and what have you, and she said, "You can never confuse the marketing with the book." And she was talking about, how some covers are just really just ugly. And as a reader, it made me think when she said that, how I'm perusing Barnes and Nobles or this year only African American bookstores. And, so when I'm perusing and looking for my next find, that hasn't been suggested by a friend or from BookTube or another reader that I trust and what have you, or just something that I'm longing for that's not within the 1,200 books that I already own that are on my shelf. So I'm looking, and yes, there are some books that I've bought because of the covers. And so when she was saying that, there's some books that we may pass up because of the covers, and there's such a gem inside. And it had me thinking, as a painter, since I'm such a visual person, I love the things that are beautiful, and this book is beautiful, and the Two Moons books that I have is beautiful. Every book that I've been getting, I'm not surprised that they are beautiful, but we and some people that do not read independent writers or indie publishing houses, sometimes the covers are just jacked. And you miss out on a gem. And so the marketing for the two books or two publishing houses that I was focusing on tonight, they are done so well, you guys, but that should not be the only thing that we are looking at, because I know time and time again, when I go to the library or to the bookstore, I'm opening up books. I read the first chapter sometimes, or the first two chapters, just sitting in the library or at the bookstore. And I get blown away by some ugly covered books that are done by, Penguin. Like, I can't stand those Penguin books that just kind of have just the words on it. And then it's orange, black, and white, and it all looks like Halloween. I don't like those covers. But if readers, we form our own, we've got our own fantasies and imaginations, and then the writer put it together for us. And so how she walks, how she talks to her daughter, her husband, everything becomes such a different person than the one on the front, because in my mind she was more I'm trying to think of an actress that could play her in my mind.
Man,
And
that's tough, because I still, like, at first I was thinking, man, maybe Sanaa Lathan, but
yeah, I thought about her, but she's a little too sexy.
No, that was really, really tough.
She's
Because,
yeah.
It's yeah, that one's a tough one. I don't even, like, usually when I write, I do have people in mind.
Yeah.
On certain characters, but like on this one, I didn't have that many characters in mind. Like, I didn't have one for Zendaya.
Yeah.
I told you I have one for the mom. Like,
exactly. Angela Bassett.
Definitely. Like, that would. I mean, I went in thinking, like, yeah, Angela Bassett. She would be perfect. Like,
yeah.
But then, like, on like, even now, like, I'll watch certain stuff and I'm like, even though, like, there might be an actress that maybe favor her, but I don't think they could be her. Like, I don't know if they, what I'm saying? So I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
But I would say it's
And
not.
you know who might be really good?
Huh?
Journey Smollett. But she'd have to play it in a way where her hair is sleek back, because there's something about Zendaya that is so put together that even the curly hair model on the front, and Journey Smollett has all that wonderful curly hair. She could be a Zendaya, but there's something like very sultry about Journey Smollett. Bell now, I think that's her name. That if she slicked back her hair and was in the same type of very classic, stylish clothes that you can just imagine Zendaya wearing, I think she could pull it off, because she has so much of a passion, and that hurt that she has in her performances sometimes is where I could imagine seeing her if I was reading her diary portions. You know what I'm saying? That might be a really good one. But I always pictured, like, even when I was reading the book, that she had short hair, like a short haircut or something, for some reason. I don't know why, but maybe it's the name. Because even the name is like really beautiful and exotic, but I still pictured her as this very sharp dressed, the well put together person that was just maybe falling apart on the seams and hurt.
Oh man,
you know.
He was so like that's one thing. That's another thing too. Like that people, I think that catches a lot of people off guard.
Yeah.
Is that they realize how on a surface, yeah, she might be the perfect person. And as a writer, they tell you like, hey, you can't make you can't make her too beautiful or this. But no, I wanted that because I also wanted you to see, just because she may look perfect, she was terrible. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, she was really a mess. Like, she was like really a mess of a person. And
she was falling apart.
Like, I mean, right. It wasn't like she was evil. She was just a mess. Like, her whole life was just, she was wanted to be one thing so bad. And, but like when you were talking about Zoe earlier, I think that's one part of it too that I like when I went back and read it. It was like everybody had this idea about Zoe, and nobody really, like, it was like the mom thought she was one way, and the dad thought she was one way, like that. And Zoe was just like, whatever, man. I know what I am. But I mean, it's just like,
Zoe is she's a perfect millennial. She's a perfect millennial artist. Just very in her own head and don't really care about what nobody else is going to say about it. I'm just who I am. Have a seat and get used to me.
Right, that's what Zachary had told her. Like, yeah, see, you had it easy with the dad, and Zoe came. Now you don't know how to be a parent.
Exactly.
She just changed what being a parent was about. But,
exactly.
I mean, I think and like I said, I think when people read, the book, I think it changes. I just think I just wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be somebody that maybe change the idea of what they think about independent writers.
This book will definitely do it. This book is so well written, and the editing. I was like, okay, I'm supposed to find something. I'm supposed to. Instead, I'm actually finding just a wonderful put together book. I mean, literary. Like that's what I was going to say earlier. On the back of your book, it actually says "Ruined" is a thrilling mystery, and I was like, no. Thrilling, yes, it is. But if the thing is, I finished the book, and I was looking for errors and reading, because I was going to talk about this book with people, since I'm doing my independent writer series, is to try to make sure that people understand. I've read books by Penguin, Random, and find misspelled words. I didn't find any here. I found a word that I hadn't used or seen anybody say in years. And I was like, is that a word? I was like, oh my God, it's an old word. And hold on, let me go to it, because the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because I had wrote all these little notes. And I am telling you, I'm so mad that YouTube made me miss out on that first video. But I was mentioning about his exemplary verbiage, and basically, it's desirable. It's exemplary is a desirable model representing the best of its kind, and to me, this is an example of the best of its kind. When I have to sit up here talking about, I'm doing an independent writer series or indie publishing house series, and these new writers that people don't read because they're not of a big publishing company. This is exemplary. This is a perfect find for somebody that doesn't believe, because it will make you a believer, number one, because it's so well done. I don't really now, the thing that I have a problem with thriller mystery, because not everybody reads mystery, and we have March Mystery Madness Month here on BookTube, and people do that, and whoever heads that up does an amazing job in getting us that don't read mystery into reading some mystery books. So in that respect, and I know you had mentioned that because I did read this during March Mystery Madness Month. That's a lot of M's. But anyway, I did read it last month. And I'm like, okay, but this is, I don't want people to think that it didn't belong for Mystery Month, and that I'm 100% disagreeing with the writer by putting in thrilling mystery. It's just that it's so much better than that. And when I say better, because people, we live in a society, we always want to compare this and that. I'm an artist, so I get compared this and that. And so the type of art that I do is considered folk art. But I've always been called, when I go to a gallery or a museum or art teachers, they're like, oh, you're a folk artist, but you're a fine folk artist. Like it's a step above. Like it's not just people that you look at and they're all jangled or whatever. And if you know what folk art is, it's art that's done by self-taught artists. And there are a lot of self-taught artists that can do exactly like perfect, take a look at you and do you so great that you think you just took a picture. Right. And exactly. But I'm self-taught, but I'm a fine folk artist compared to just a fine or a folk artist. And so I mention that because this is like fine literature. This is not just a mystery, and I not just put mystery down. I don't mean to say it like that, but
no,
it's so much more, you guys.
I'll tell you what my friend told me.
Mm-hmm.
That like, because I told you I was upset about the whole urban fiction thing.
Yeah,
and
it's not urban
she
fiction.
told me, which I was, and I think this is what made me calm down from being angry, was that she was like, it's almost impossible to place the book.
Yeah.
And she was like, because you're right, like it's really not a mystery in that way.
Yeah.
And it's not really a suspense thriller in another way. And it's like, it's a story of people's lives just being, taken out of proportion, like, or just going through some mess. And it's like, so she was like, maybe the judges didn't really know what to do. They saw the black woman on the cover and said, urban fiction, give them second place.
Exactly. So, and that goes right back to, that goes right back to us. Yeah. And that goes right back to us having to explain why we are the way we are. And that cover, just because it has a black woman on it with naturally curly hair, doesn't mean it's urban lit, just because you couldn't find a place for her look. And that's just ridiculous, because if you turn around on the back, it doesn't place you anywhere. This could be $1 million home just because everything is rusty on it. People do those. I mean, I love old houses like that. I lived in an old house like that, and it was a very, wealthy neighborhood. And so just, you can't judge a book by its cover. That's the most oldest thing we've all heard. But anyway, I do want to read this, you guys, because hopefully the live will stay up, because this is the, I was like, oh, I done read this. I done made God mad, but no, I'm just joking. And God is much more wise than I am. So anyway, this on page 4, you guys. And hi, Joe. Hi, pretty brown-eyed reader. She says, hello, everyone. Hi, Flower Child. She's still here. And so we are just going to be reading, or I am going to be reading some of Mr. Eliot's. If you are just now joining in, Alicia, I had some issues with the new BookTube Live or YouTube Live, and had to reboot and contact them and what have you. And so now we're up like the 3rd time. So I don't care what time it is. If you're gonna rock out with me, then fine. Hopefully they will do like they used to and record the live session. So I'm just gonna read from page 4, because I've already done this, but let's just do it again. All right, so anyway, it says, Job was minding his own damn business one day when the good Lord and Satan decided to play a game of chess with the poor guy's life. The more Michael thought about this story, the more he felt ill at ease. Not because Satan hated Job for loving God the way he did. That made perfect sense. No, what was most disturbing about the story was how easily God allowed Satan to influence his actions. God destroyed this man's entire life to prove a point. He took everything from Job, which was what Satan wanted God to do in the first place. Evidence notwithstanding, Job's faith did not falter, not even a little. In the end, God replaced what was taken from Job with new things. He replaced all the damages with new things. New wife, new kids, new health, new riches. The Lord replaced the goods and then was done with it. He did this as if it were cool to destroy a man's life as long as you gave that man some new shit in return. I was like, mic dropper. I love that. And the reason why is because when you are reading that biblical account in the Bible for yourself, you do kind of go, gosh, why does Job have to go through this? Why does Satan get what he wants all the time? Like, it messes with you.
It's so funny that you brought that up because I want to say, I think I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
And it always stuck with me. As you can see, I put it in my book. Like,
right.
That always stuck with me because I remember, like, the preacher was telling the story. Like, the first time I ever heard it was in church. And I always remember the story, like the preacher was talking about it. And he was talking about how awesome it was that, Job, stuck by God. And I'm sitting there like, but he took everything from him for no reason other than to prove a point.
Yeah.
Like that. I would have been pissed. And I'm like, I mean, that would have bothered me. I remember my mom was trying to explain it to me.
Yeah.
And the more she explained it to me, the more it did not make sense. So, back in those days, after a while, my mom was like, boy, just shut up. Like, all right. But
right.
It's always, that story just kind of how I feel like a lot of things, even today, we feel like that. Like you think about like Donald Trump. I mean, it's like, you had Obama.
Yeah.
You had it good.
Right.
But with your own ignorance, you replaced it with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is you're going to, like, because I remember, like, so we went from Bush, and you were smart enough to give us Obama. Now you're dumb again. You want to give us Trump. And like Dave Chappelle said, what's next? Jesus? Well, I guess we're just going to vote Jesus in. Because the ignorance of that, of some of the things. And like, but we really are that way. Like,
Donald Trump is a sheer indication that this is the end. Oh my gosh.
But I always felt like, I mean, because I'm not, I know religion. My mom's a minister. My brother's a minister. But at the same time, I always felt like I did have to be careful, with the book because I don't, like, I didn't want people to think that I was just bashing religion. I was just showing how, the way I was growing up, how religion really was a powerful weapon in the Black community. Like it, the way Zello is, like half of my family's like that.
Yeah. Wow.
And so it's like a lot of people don't realize how, like Christianity really is a weapon in our communities, and even our parents used it against us. It was a way of basically saying, hey, be quiet, shut up.
Exactly. And I remember the first time one of my sons told me, he says Job was his favorite part in the Bible, and I remember having this thought that's in the book, going, for real? Really? Because I got a bone to pick. I got some issues. I got some questions. But at the same token, I always thought, the same token, I always thought that, because I believe that there are so many things that are put in the Bible to make sure that that if I've given you the right to choose to serve me or not, there's also some men in this Bible or some things that I'm doing to let you know, like David. If I would commit some sort of sexual sin or what have you, I would think about David and I would go, now, David, watch the woman bathe. Her name is Bathsheba. Then he arranges to have her husband killed in the war.
That is so funny that you brought that up because that was the other story that always bothered me.
Yes.
Like, how was David this great dude, and he sent this dude to war to die? So he killed his woman.
Yeah.
And what was God's punishment for that?
Right? But
was it Roe v. Wade? Was that God's punishment? Was Roe v. Wade God's punishment? Because that's exactly what he did.
Stop it.
I'm just saying. When they say, what would
Oh
Jesus
my
do?
God.
I'll be like, you better ask David what Jesus would do. What he would do is take your child.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, when they were talking about abortion, I'm like, do y'all not remember, that Moses had to go around painting doors and stuff so people's firstborn wasn't taken off this planet? Don't ask me what Jesus would do.
I know.
Abortion clinic.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I know.
That's what I learned, that people really don't read the Bible.
Yeah.
They listen to the preacher. They don't read the Bible.
Exactly.
They listen to the preacher.
Yeah, because I remember reading that account of David and going, oh, I just need to be more repentive because that's all it's going to take is I need to be more repentive. And that was like this, that's truly, and I kid you not, that's what exactly I got from that is being more sorry, because people can go out and commit all kind of sins and go, well, I'm just going to ask for forgiveness the next day. I'm like, no. That's not being repentive. I mean, David was hurt in his heart type of way. So and his repentance to me was real. And that's the lesson I learned from it more than what, obviously what he did was bad. And I mean, he was definitely sinning and murder. I ain't killed nobody. I'm thinking, I'm good.
Right. He like, I mean, it's weird because like, it's so many ways you can look at that story because he was so, I don't want to say love because he didn't love her like at that time. Yeah. But man, he was so taken by that woman. He was looking for loopholes how to murder her husband. Like,
exactly.
But
do you know, Mr. Eliot?
Bring him in. Didn't even bring him in.
Yes. No.
And like had a conversation with him.
Yeah,
but the husband was like, I think when he realized that the husband was like this great dude, I think that really bothered him. Like, oh yeah, like man, I basically just sent Michael out to fight this war. Like,
exactly.
So, I think that's, like I said, that is so amazing that you brought up that story because that was literally the second story of my life where I was like, okay, the Bible is some messed up stuff.
Ooh, and it lets you know that either there is, if you are a believer, there is repentance, there is a forgiveness, that there's love at the end of it. I mean, we already are born into a sin that we didn't create, and so knowing that it's not 100% of the fault that we are the way that we are. Yes, we can do better. We can't use it as a crutch and just continue to move throughout our lives like that. But these examples are so much worse than I've ever done that I was like, wow, I'm so glad he put that Job in there because that was me right there. Like, and I was like, okay, I might have to read this on there. They just gonna have to forgive me for cussing because I got to make this point. But anyway, that's one of the things that I really enjoyed. And again, there's some other things that I had dog-eared, but I did want to ask you some questions. These are some questions I actually asked of myself, and hopefully tomorrow I'll try to do this again because I was BookTube live Saturday and Sunday. So tomorrow, you guys, I will see you at 6 p.m. Eastern Central Standard Time. That is, if you are just now coming in and joining, there are a few people here, and yeah, we're going to try this again tomorrow. So these are 10 questions that I asked of myself. I won't ask them all of you tonight.
If you want to ask them tomorrow, the other half tomorrow, I'm willing to call.
Okay. I'll ask you a couple of them. And these are questions that I asked myself as an artist, as a painter. So to me, my art started because I was writing. I was writing short stories and poetry that I would, like, in the middle of the night, wake up because I could see what I wrote, but in colors. And so I start to paint my poems and I start to paint my short stories, and that's how my art came about. So I'll ask these of you as a writer, because to me, the written word, since we're talking about the Bible, to me, the written word is the beginning of all creation. Therefore, if you're an artist or you're a writer or you're a sculptor, or at some point you wrote something down, you blueprint it down, and the word is just that powerful because the word just continues to grow inside of you, and you start creating. So, and, you know, onto your third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth book, and you start picking up a paintbrush going, you know what, I got something else to say, and it's not these black and white is not going to do it, but this red and this blue and this yellow will. Then, I mean, I just believe that just continues to grow because we are created to create. So the first question is asking, how does, and mine was painting, so how does writing change you as a person?
I would say, okay, I got to tell you the story.
Okay.
So if it takes long, I apologize, but I didn't know how to read until I was about 10.
Say what?
And yeah, I didn't know how to read until I was about 10 years old.
Wow.
When I graduated high school, I probably read at about a third grade level.
Wow.
But and that just goes to show, because I went to white schools and they really didn't care about my education. It was just like, you know, I did the homework and I was terrible on tests, but I did the homework, and the homework was almost 70% of the grade. So the test really didn't matter. This was before, you know, how the standardized testing thing is now.
Yeah.
And it was weird because it is, you know, like I really didn't tell anybody that I couldn't. And I remember when they used to have those red books that used to come up to the school, and
red.
Like, you would go,
did you say red books or red bus?
The red bus.
Red bus.
Like, it used to be this red bus that would come up to the school, and you would go inside and buy books and everything.
Yeah.
And
bookmobile. Is it called bookmobile? That's what ours were called.
I think it's called bookmobile now. But when I was growing up, it was Scholastic. It was Scholastic books.
You ain't that old.
Oh yeah, I am.
Talking about when I was growing up.
So it was Scholastic books when they came in. Like,
Okay.
I mean, and it was so like terrible. Like, I couldn't, you know, read any of the books. Like, I would just look at the books, and I always thought the reason why I couldn't read was because we were poor.
For real?
I thought that was something only rich people had.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, and it was so weird. Like, I didn't think I could, you know, I thought it was because we were poor that I didn't know how to read. And
hold on just a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not talking to an old slave.
No, you're not. You're not talking to an old slave. You're just talking to a man that grew up in a very poor white neighborhood. I mean, that was the thing. Like, I grew up around very poor white people. Like, I did not grow up with it. Like, that's the worst part. Like, you know how, like, some black people be like, hey, I grew up in these white neighborhoods with rich white people, and they had everything. Man, please. So with some poor white people that had less than me.
Exactly.
And I was like, man, y'all struggling. So I really thought, like, you know, I thought not being able to read was because we lived in a poor white neighborhood. Like, I thought that was just because we couldn't afford to read. We couldn't afford it. Wow. And but like, because I didn't read my first book. I think I was like maybe 21. I worked on it like really, really hard. Like, I went out, you know, out the way up, you know, and I always tell people, like, you know, if Stephen King's my dad, J.K. Rowling's my mother, and Maya Angelou was my grandmother.
What?
Because that's how you know, and it's funny, like, I tell people, you know, they were like, oh, how did you do this? And like, after I tell the story, it's like, honestly, I learned how to write from audiobooks.
Wow.
I learned how to write from audiobooks. And it also helped me read because I realized, like, I used to work at a video store, and even to this day, I can recite The Lion King from word to word.
Really?
Because I've heard it, you know, if I hear something, I can remember it.
Yeah.
So I realized, I was like, okay, that I can teach myself how to read and write if I go and get audiobooks. And the first audiobook I ever got was a Harry Potter book.
What?
And so I went and bought the book, and you know, I had the audiobook, and I went through the whole book, highlighting words and everything. And and that's why I was saying, like, this is probably the fourth book I wrote, but the first three were terrible. So, but I just kept working on it, and bettering my craft and reading everything I could possibly get my hands on. And so when you talk about being self-taught, I understand that because I taught myself how to read.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to. But that was my biggest mystery in life was what do those words mean, or what do they say? And it was just weird. I like not being able to read. That's what I'll be like saying, like when people don't read stuff, like like I hear like some of these independent writers, like they talk about like, oh, I don't read. I'm like, you can't write because
exactly
reading is like there's so much into reading to where if you're not able to pick up a book and read it for yourself, then you're not a writer. Like,
exactly. Yeah, Stephen King said that. I really liked his book. I gave it to my daughter because she's a really good writer, but it was Stephen King on writing. But before I got that book and read it, because I have a lot of Stephen King books, and I used to read those big old Tommy Knocker books when I was young. And he would always say, writers read, and so forth and so on. But that is exactly true. It's like studying your craft. And granted, there are some people that could maybe just put themselves out of the loop and get off the internet and go live on an island and just bust out this wonderful story. But to continue on, there's got to be something that's already in your head, and usually that comes from reading something. And your whole experience just becomes more enhanced when you read and get all these wonderful inspirations and so forth.
What's cool to me about about reading is I read so much, but I also see like certain things that even Stephen King will be talking about, like, oh my God, he got that from Tolkien. Like he got that from a Lord of the Rings book. Yeah. Or like for example, like a lot of people don't even know this. Okay, like in the Harry Potter book, they got these creatures called the Mentors. Yeah. Well, that character, the Mentor, came from that Jingle All the Way movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad. Like, are you serious? Literally, yes. Yeah. Remember, because it was a black suit with a cloak, and the helmet that he wore was like this round dome thing. Yeah. That's exactly how the Dementors are described and looked in the movies. Yeah. Like, wow. Like, so you see, like, the more you read and you see certain things, like, you see where they get their influences. Exactly. And to me, that's, like, part of the fun part about reading. Like, that's true. Do you see where people get their influences? Because, I get my influence, like I said, I get my influences from, Stephen King, and I probably my word use, a lot of it came from reading J.K. Rowling, and my I guess trying to find my soul mostly came from Maya Angelou. Like, so, yeah, definitely. And right, because that's what I'm saying. Like, when you read a Stephen King book, even though sometimes they are so long-winded, it's like you're sitting around a campfire listening to some old grumpy grandpa telling you a story. Exactly, and it's so American. It's trying to kill everybody. Exactly. Yeah, there's always a twist. It's so very Americana, but yeah, he always puts this element of fear and kookiness and what have you in it. But yeah, I know that in the painting world, they always tell you, find a good artist and then copy that artist. The thing is, I'm a firm believer in your handprint. Your fingerprints. Nobody has the same fingerprints as you. So when you look at a piece of work, whether it be Picasso or, one of my favorite, Jean-Michel Basquiat or Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera, all of those of my favorite people, if I sit down and try to do exactly what they do with not trying to be a copy artist and do line by line, but actually just look at that and be inspired by it and then transform it the way that my hand can, it's always going to be different. My sister, when she used to go to my art shows with me, she used to just be marveled in the fact that, oh my God, there's all these different artists and all of you guys are so different. Same way that book lovers go into a book and go, this story. That's why we keep buying books.
And
Right.
one of my favorite all-time scriptures is in Ephesians, and I've said it a million times on this channel that there's nothing new under the sun. And so with this language, we have English. And so when I have actually, because my son used to be a stand-up poet, and I would hear sometimes, poets in the background, like if another poet is on stage going, yeah, I remember writing about that. And I remember, as if they were taking ownership of this person's style or poem, or they just snatched this from them or what have you. First of all, there's a million and one ways to say things. But if you only know English, you're going to use those words. Those words are going to keep coming up time and time again. And so, but when somebody else puts their spin on it, their own flavor on it, and that's what makes that handprint or that fingerprint so unique and so enjoyable to watch. And it is worth going to get that other book, even though half of the books, I'd say half or more than half of the books, you can directly relate a story in the Bible. I
Yeah.
mean, the good guy and the bad guy. I mean, that's everywhere. That's Satan.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's already good and evil is everywhere. And it was first, come on.
I
So,
think what's more amazing to me about a lot of books,
mhm,
and I don't mean anybody no disrespect, but I think what's
yeah,
more amazing to me about a lot of books is how bad they are. Like there are a
yeah,
lot of bad books,
yeah,
but they're written really well. And like
yeah.
for example, I mean, if you go back to Stephen King, like The Stand is like one of the most popular books, but
This,
it is a
yeah.
shitty book. It is terrible. Like the plot of that book, like they build up to some grand battle that never takes place for 1,000 pages, and I'm like, this is the dumbest book I ever read. Like, but the writing is so spectacular. Like the writing
Yeah.
is just you're so like it's almost to the point where you're so caught up with the writing. By the time
Mhm.
the story's over, you're like, wait, what?
Like,
What happened? Like, are you
yeah.
serious? Like,
No.
and I think that's what and I think that's what a lot of people, I think sometimes they miss those parts. Like, I want to tell a good story, but I want it to be written well. And I
Yeah.
mean, and I don't know, but I also want it to be, I want it to be different, but I also, it doesn't
Mm.
have to be. I think some people try to make their stories so grandiose, like it
Yeah.
has to be this grand thing. Like, no, it
Yeah.
really doesn't. It just has to be told in a
Yeah.
way
Like
that
some
keeps
people I
people
literally think
engaged.
exactly.
Right.
Some people I
Because
think
like,
when they're writing or first time writers, or if a book they found their calling, and oh my goodness, I wrote this couple of sentences and that's really good, let me go on and create a novel. No, you just
right,
need to still read and
that
work on some stuff. But the thing is, some people sit down at something very very brand new to them, whether it be art, books, sculpting, whatever, and like especially with writing, go, my first book is going to be a Pulitzer Prize winner. No, first write several books, or write,
yeah, right,
not everybody is going to have that one time, that first time rather, really good book, even not even grand or a Pulitzer Prize winning, but even a good book. Like Bernice L. McFadden's first book, Sugar. I was like, I'm thinking this woman done been writing all her life. It was so good.
right,
I started my book club years ago in Florida, and that's one of the first books we read, if not the first. No, it wasn't, because I think I had them read a Black Panther book because I was, as you were saying earlier, very Black. And I kind of wanted to see who was going to read and who wasn't. So then, but when we read Sugar, I was like, that can't be her first book. And then Dolores Phillips with The Darker Child. If you have not read that book, please read that book. Anybody listening and on YouTube on this channel, if you have not read The Darker Child by Dolores Phillips, I believe is her name. And me and my daughter for years would Google her, like her next book. When's her next book? I mean, we would talk about it and we'd want to read it again. And we would just for years, this would go on. Finally, a
that's
writer,
awesome.
young man on Facebook, I think it's Travis Stokes, who's a writer. He said, he came to my channel. He said, Denise, she passed away. I was like, get
Oh,
out of
wow.
here. So she had this one great book, which is to me, and I love The Color Purple. Alice Walker is like one of my favorite writers of all time. And I mean, I got a picture of her on my nightstand. I love the woman. But Dolores Phillips, The Darker Child, can do as well as the Color Purple movie. That's how great that book is. And she wrote one and died. So sometimes I think some writers get real heady before they even study their craft or read, like you were saying, that's something that you love to do. And then coming into it, later in, 10 or 11, you said that you start reading.
Yeah.
12. I mean, and this book is not, there's, you would never, if you did not share that story, I would have thought, wow, I mean, this dude is Harvard grad. What is he talking about? He didn't start reading until he was 10 or 12. But no, this is really good. Like, I was looking up words, which I like to do. That's part of my reading experience. And I've got some questions that I always ask of myself, and which I'm going to start or incorporating back into some of my book reviews when I actually start doing some book reviews and stop gushing. But there are 5 things that I need to have from a book in order for it to be a 5-star. And I think I went over that one time on this channel when I was reading Chintu by Jennifer Masabenga, whatever her last name is. I'm sorry, I can see the book. It's right behind me, but I can't pronounce it. But it was amazing. And it had everything that I needed from a book. And I like to learn something from a book. One of the questions that I always ask myself is, what can I take from this and use it, or to enlighten my living experience? And one of the things that I was talking about earlier with Denise Collins in this book is she's so fresh, and she has the right to be mad. She has the right to say everything that she is so on the pulse of everything that's happening now, that just bought this book up a notch. And she's not in here so long that you just get, I mean, like, she's taken over Michael or Zendaya, but she's in there so just flavored perfectly that I kept looking at this book going, I need to meet this dude. Because there's something, you guys are not going to expect what's in this book, and it's going to take you for a ride. You're going to have a relationship with it. You're going to want to pat him on the back. You're going to want to say, keep going. You're going to want to say, don't be a Dolores Phillips and pass before your next book. No. And I'm not saying that, and I'm tiny bit being funny about it, but on the real, like, there are so many good writers out there that have a rund in them, a book that is this good in them, and they are second guessing themselves, or maybe they're not doing their homework or what have you to pull all those things out. And I just say congratulations, because this book had me.
Also, with me though, you gotta understand, like I was saying, like, this is really my 3rd book.
Yeah.
And it's just the first one that I published. Like, actually, every book that I wrote is in that book.
Oh, for real?
The children's book that they keep talking about, Elijah Grant. Yeah. That was my first novel.
Get out.
And
I see what you guys are getting.
Like, I still have it on file. Like, it's just, it hasn't been through a major edit. Like, the Betrayed, the book that she apparently wrote, that's what I'm rewriting right now. Yeah. And then the other, like, she had quoted from a book called What Life Did. Yeah. That was my short story book that I wrote in 2014. So, like, I went through, I did some other writing, but I just kept trying to get better, because I used to post, I used to post Betrayed on Facebook. Like, that's how most people know who I am, because like, I used to get like 600 people like reading a chapter that I wrote on Facebook, and I'm like, where the hell all these people come from? Like, when people were sharing it and stuff like that. But I refused, and like, people were like, you got a book, and I was like, no, not yet. But I refused to write a book until I knew that I was ready, like, that I, was prepared to do it.
And that's humbling too, because that speaks to your character. Because if you had that many books, and you could have went that many directions, and then to put them all into this one and go, this is it. I mean, I'm putting them here, and still going to write, some other books. But some people might not have done that because they thought, no, and then I can make money off of all these books. Because sometimes, and I will say this, I do meet some independent writers. Oh my gosh, Yeah, one of the books is sitting to the right of me, and I'm like, and it's not Two Moons, because Two Moons was brilliant, you guys. But there's another book that I was going to talk about tonight, and I have this lady's card, and I was going to actually invite her to so that we could talk about her book, and I was very excited about it because I was there, and I did, she did the Arthur reading and what have you, and she was more interesting than her book. I was like, what's I got home and I felt gypped. And I was so upset. And I kept going, I can't show that book. I showed it once here. And don't you guys try to go through all my videos to try to figure out what it is, because I will tell you. And not to be nasty, it's just that that's a part of the independent writer series that I'm doing. However, not doing that tonight because I'm not making a comparison. But yeah, this is not to be compared to anything. Just read the book. But anyway, I will go off on a tangent on that, and I really don't want to. But I had another question. I only asked you one of these questions, and you mentioned audiobooks that you listen to. So what is your favorite audiobook, if you can snatch one out of your brilliant brain right now?
Oh, that's not even a contest. And I'm telling you right now, for me personally, the voice has to be good. That's all. That's
most definitely.
Because Anne Hayes tried to do one, and it was terrible. And then I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
The book was probably a classic, but her voice was terrible.
Yeah.
The best audiobook I have heard so far is Girl on the Train.
Girl on the Train?
Those three actresses on Girl on the Train, those three, they use three different women to do it. And I mean, they are really, really good. And
really?
Like, I was really shocked, like, how good it was. Like, so, I mean, I would probably say that one was probably my favorite. The best voice, though, you're ever going to hear, I would probably say it's Jim Dale. He's the one that do the Harry Potter ones.
Oh, yeah.
Morgan Freeman, I think, does one, and I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
But
so your absolute favorite was Girl on the Train. So, but was the story that good? Was the story that good, or was it just because of the actresses?
You know what? That's, for me. It's hard to say because I didn't read the book until after the audiobook. So when I'm reading the book, I still hear their voices.
Oh, yeah, because you have that.
So I mean, like, when it comes to like books that way, I'm a very bad, like, I'm not good at gauging that way, because if I read 9 times out of 10, I would probably listen to the audiobook first now.
Yeah. And why is that? Why is that? Why are you listening to audiobooks more than you're reading?
Because, like I was telling you, like, I learn more by listening. Like, I'm an audible learner. And so if I'm reading something, I won't remember it as much as I would if I hear it.
And hey, we talked about that on this channel, Mr. Eliot, because I posed that question to them because before I never listened to audiobooks, and now I've been listening to audiobooks for quite some time now, and I say quite some time, like in the last year, only because I had to do more painting. Not had to, but I wanted more art shows like I used to. So I start painting more. So I always need a story. I'm sorry, I'm sitting up here looking at my phone. But sorry, y'all. But I start listening to audiobooks more. It actually has been a couple of years, because I remember at the house when I was painting more, I would listen to stories and on audio, and it's just fabulous. And some of them, like you said, that the narrator makes all the difference, and the story.
It makes all the difference.
If you've ever listened to Ari Flaccos, he's amazing. Even if the book is not that good, the book could be like a 3-star book, but Ari Flaccos would put it up a notch. And Bonnie Turpin, she's like one of my favorites. And whoever the lady that did The King and I, King Peggy. I listened to King Peggy, which is a true story, because I love nonfiction, but the way that this audio was done, because she's the true story is King Peggy actually works in America, in Washington D.C. at the whatever for the nation in Africa that she lives from, and anyway, somebody dies over in Africa, in the country that she's from. And it's her uncle, I believe. And so she becomes the king of Khotam, I believe is how you say it. And so she goes back and forth being a secretary in Washington, D.C., and going home to be the king and trying to get. Oh, man, it's so good. And it's a real life story. I mean, this woman is alive and kicking it, and this is what she does. And so, but when the narrator goes back home to Africa, she has to do all these voices for the men who are taking the money from the people and the taxes and doing all this. And she's trying to whip them into shape and get a council of women and men to change things. And she does all the voices. And it is so good. I couldn't even hardly paint sometimes because I was cracking up. But she's an amazing woman. And if you, I forget her name. I don't know what the narrator's name is now. I wish I would have wrote it down, because what happens is I'll just write down the narrators and then just go in the library and look for that specific person or Google them and see how many books that they, and then just do that. I love that.
Did you have you read American Marriage?
No, and I was just going to talk about her too, because let me tell you, and we were talking about bad books earlier. Yeah, audiobooks. I think I put it in the living room. Anyway, so yeah, I put it in the living room because I have it on my blackout bookshelf, you guys. The Untelling by Tahiri Jones. And I own the physical, but you guys know, since I was painting, I was listening to the audio, and I did not like it. I'm like, I've been collecting her books, and I thought, okay, so now she's got this Oprah pick. Oh, this is going to be good. So let me start here. And it was, okay, I understand the issue or what, there's this main subject, that was happening in the book. But every CD, I'm thinking, okay, but I only got 2 more CDs left. I only got 1 more CD left. What's going to happen here? And it was like nothing happened. I was like, you know what? No. So maybe.
I'm telling you, like, one of my friends, I talk to her about it. And her thing was, maybe people like it because the characters were like very like you really got to know the characters. They were really rich, and I'm like, yeah, I felt that too. Mm-hmm. But and that's what I was saying earlier. I don't get it. The story was stupid. Like, it was a really dumb story.
Yeah,
the writing was good. Like, I think when you say certain things, people be like, oh, it's this. I'm like, no, the writing was great.
Yeah,
the writing was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
The story sucked. Like, it was like a really bad story. Like, it was just, I was like really just mind boggled because when I did my Goodreads review, and I kind of feel bad because, like, I don't like, it's not like I'm dissing my sister or nothing like that.
I understand. No, but if you're a reader, that's what people do. We talk about books.
Right, but I think that's those type of books like that, though, like when Oprah picks those type of books and everybody's going to get them. And, I think that's what really confuses a lot of independent writers and a lot of Black writers, because it's like, how, like, what makes that book so great?
Yeah.
And you look at your book and you thinking, do I need to do something different? And I try to caution, like, a lot of indie writers. It's like, no, don't fall for that. Like, you have to still write your story.
Like make it flat. There's a flatness to a lot of award-winning or very books that just run rampant through, the New York Times, through BookTube, through readers and book clubs and everything. There's this very flatness, but some books that are very character study-ish, and I love character studies, but I like a character study, and sometimes I do like the blend, only if it's dense and it's the writing supports it, but there's still a meaty enough story. Like, for instance, one of my favorites is Hajin, and it's called Waiting. My daughter was like, Mom, read this book. I read that book and I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. That's the only dryness but it's the book is perfectly titled Waiting. You're literally reading this book and you're feeling this sense of dread, and you're literally waiting on this thing. And then when you get it, you're this one, oh my God, it's so freaking brilliant. It's not even funny. But everybody can't do that. And everybody can't just have maybe some sort of, just go left with the story and make it different, and just because it's different you think it's going to work, but time and time again those are some of the books that win the awards. So I'm like, oh my god, no, that's not everybody can do that. And maybe they should
Right.
ask the readers what they think of these books, because like Exit West, I mean, that thing was what, shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize. I don't care what nobody say.
Right.
I have my opinion, and I tried to like that book. There were some very likable points in the beginning of that book and the way it was
Oh
told,
yeah.
but then there was this element that I thought, oh, I can actually. I'm reading this book going, and I'm when I edit too much when I'm reading, like literally the things that came in my mind were like, the publisher calls him to the office. They say, can you throw this in, and can you do this, and can you do that, and he
Right.
followed this guideline of weirdness, and let's do this and let's go left, and there was this underlining war and this love on top of it, but it all felt very weirdly formulaic. Like, let's try to do something different and pepper it, with all this little stuff that's supposed to, take the reader here. No, it's almost like I saw through the BS, and I wasn't having it. And I I just did not like that book. And fight me. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't like that book.
Yeah. And that's how I feel. Like, I mean, it's not that I don't, respect, because I respect a lot of, I respect writers because I know what it takes
Most
to write a book,
definitely.
and it's not easy. And
But if it's not good,
you
it's
know,
not good.
right? But it's just like, I mean, and I think that's like, and I think honestly, I guess if you want to say shameless plug, whatever, but I think that's one thing too that really kind of shocks people with my story is that it's an actual story. Like,
Yeah.
and I think it's like this new trend that's coming out now where people are just writing books, but there's no story in it. They're just
Yeah.
trying to develop these characters.
It's yeah.
And like the more odd these characters are, the more people, oh, it's so
Yeah.
out there. And it's like yeah, but
Like
where's the story? Like,
yeah, like you didn't really get it, and I don't care who gets it. It's like everybody's like like everybody that
right.
likes caviar and oh, it's so delicious. No, it ain't. No,
No, it's
that shit tastes like dirt. No, it don't.
like basically you just read 400 pages about a dude with a tooth missing that was in jail. That's pretty much it. Like,
Right?
man. You did not get anything out, like, and that's what it was like. You didn't get nothing out of that story.
I know, right?
Like, what did you get out of that story? Because to me, I felt like Celestial set Black women back 600 years. Like,
Ooh.
oh my
Ooh.
God.
See, I was watching her. Actually, I was watching her today when I was telling you about that quote. And I was watching her talk about the book. And the reason why I was watching her is because I didn't like the Untelling. And I was trying to, figure it, do I really want this book? Because I keep seeing it everywhere. And it's like, damn tote bags. There's all this marketing going on about this book. So I'm like, okay, do I really want it? Even though I didn't like the Untelling.
Oprah makes wonders happen.
Yeah, but no, she has a lot of books that even when she was on TV and have the book club, and I have a lot of book picks of hers, and a lot of them that I didn't like. They fell very flat. I was like, okay, so who she? I don't know. I not every pick is amazing just because it's under, she's got that sticker on there. I mean, yes, it's going to sell and she's going to make a lot of money, but is the book good? No, not for every book. But anyway, I was watching her today, Tyree Jones, and I loved how she came up with the concept for the book and how Harvard, that whole thing about Harvard sending her there to get all these statistics for, the prison population. And I mean, she just got all this wonderful information, but she said the story was still not there because it didn't have the people. And so when she went to the mall in Atlanta and she saw this couple arguing, that was the people that she can place on these stories, these statistics and what have you. And then the story came about and I thought, maybe I want to read it, but it's going to be a library checkout because I already got a couple of your books and I don't like one of them. But the thing is, I mean, and I will read her other books because there was something about the Untelling, I think, if like going back to talking about audio versus visual, since I'm a visual person, I love to have the physical book in my hand. And so when people are trying to send me books and they ask me, do you want an ebook? Do you want this? Do you want that? No, I want that. I want the physical book. I want it in my hand because actually, and we talked about this again on my channel, how statistics, when I was looking it up, and I don't know what the statistics are, it was just an article I read and it went along with what I was trying to relate, is how when you're reading a book, physically looking at some people can memorize the story a lot more and the details and give a better report or review or what have you versus an audio. And when I was talking about one of the audiobooks that I loved, the things that I remembered most was the sound of the narrator's voice, the parts that made me laugh, just certain things. But what the hell was the book about? I don't know, but listen to it. It was really good.
But what's so funny? And people did not believe me, but I had listened to, like, remember I told you, I've pretty much learned how to, read and write from listening to Harry Potter.
Yes.
And I had listened to Harry Potter so much when I read in an English accent. Like I'll be reading stuff that, like, I only can read out loud. I can't read. You know how like people can read silently. I can't do that. I
really?
only can read out loud.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. I cannot read like long. I can't read books without reading it out loud. And
you know what? I am telling you that you're making this book even better than it is. Because the thing is, is really great, but to know all the back history of how you read, how you learn to read, and that's mind-boggling, because this book is, and again, it's not a thrilling mystery. There are some thrills, and there is a mystery. There's a couple of mysteries. There might be several, but to me, for all of you who, and let me just also mention this, Rebecca D says, my book is coming April the 20th. Yay.
It's my birthday.
Really? Well, happy birthday. Rebecca, did you hear that? So Rebecca's book is coming April the 20th on the writer's birthday. She says, yay, so happy to get a great book that Denise loved. So she's ordered your book and it's coming on April the 20th. And 4 days later, April 24th is my birthday. So happy birthday to us.
That's right.
So what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, I don't know. We done said a whole bunch, but I only got through one of those questions. I'm not going to continue on with all those questions because this will last until, oh my God, it's almost midnight. Thank y'all for hanging out. But anyway, let me also mention, I have 2 more little sticky notes here. I had a lot, and maybe I will get a video that I can record so that you guys can watch it and that aren't a part of this long behind 3 try live. And so I'll do a shorter video and talk about Mr. Eliot's book. But I wrote down power because I was writing things when I was reading, and it says power, the moment Kathleen differentiates why the Black female cop rubbed her the wrong way, made her change even or cringe even, versus the Black female doctor was that she was sure was a nurse, because the nurse in her mind and the doctor that she actually was there to serve her. So there was this cop that made her. Now this is a white character in the book named Kathleen. She's the wife of Dale, who's racist, and I'm not going to tell you all the terrible things about this because then I'll get on to what actually happened and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But that was a wow moment, that power thing that Kathleen and her white mind thought when she's in the hospital with this doctor who she thought was a nurse, because a woman, Black, can't be a doctor. She's definitely going to be a nurse in her mind. But she was still, even when she found out that she was a doctor, she still felt less threatened by her than she did this Black cop who was,
she found out she was a doctor.
Exactly.
That's when she started feeling threatened.
Exactly. But I thought,
like, oh.
Yeah, but and it mentions how, because she was there to service her. So it's okay to be at your service and you can have any high, title as you want. But if you're here to service me, then I can deal with you a little bit better. And I thought, oh, MGs, How many of us know that woman? I do. And then I'll just finish this up because I'm telling you, this is a point in the book where I just laughed my head off because I thought about this meme that was going around on Twitter, and I saw it on Twitter and on Instagram. And it's this meme. I'll have to tell you the meme first until I tell you the part where I was laughing so hard. Because there's this meme of Blue Ivy, Beyonce, Sean Carter's baby. Oh my God. And she's standing up on this like balcony and she's looking down at people, right? And she's got her lip all turned up, and the meme says, now there's two of them that went around, same exact picture, Blue Ivy just peering down at everybody down there. The first meme said, it said, hold on, I'm sorry. It said, look at them down there looking all regular or being all regular. Because, she's, the little rich kid that she is. And then the second meme came around and it was the same picture and it said, are you finished or are you done?
Oh, Denise hit him with that.
So when you have that in the book, I was like, I'm done. I can't stand this dude.
Denise was not having that no more. She's like, are you finished or are you done? Like,
Are you finished or are you done? Oh.
And that's the thing, like, girl, I was telling you, like, Denise, like, it's so weird because I did, like I said, I'm nosy, so I did research, like,
yeah.
And, of course, being a writer, you look at your reviews, and it's like everybody that gave it a 4-star, they openly admitted that they did not read the Kathleen and Denise parts.
What?
All the people that gave it 5.
But wait a minute, how do you read the book if you're omitting stuff? So are you making your own book?
No idea. I don't know. Like everybody was telling me that they were skipping over that part because they wanted to know about the Zendaya stuff, so they would just skip over that part. And I'm like, wow, y'all missed so much of the book.
Are you serious?
Like, to me, the most relatable character in the entire book is Denise Collins. Like, she is the most relatable person in the entire book.
To me, she's the right now person she's at the pulse of what America is right now. Denise Collins is the voice. And I was thinking maybe it's just me picking that out because I have sons that I pray for every time. Like, oh, did you get your wallet? Did you have this? Do you have, don't act a fool. Don't say this. Don't say that, or whatever, to try to hold them, to make them rein in, who they are as human beings even. And then, to have Denise feel this way about what was going on in this particular story, still it opens up to everything that's going on right now. So she was very right now. For somebody to skip over those parts, how are you reading books if you're skipping over it? I mean, I'm sorry. If you guys are out there doing that, please don't. That does not make sense.
Yeah, because like, to me, I just feel like that would be like being in the middle of a movie and you just fast forward randomly for 5 minutes. Like, I don't know, but like a lot of people, they was like, oh yeah, I didn't, I skipped over that part, and I'm just like, wow, like you really missed, like, because like with Chris' story is phenomenal.
Oh my gosh.
How do you skip over that?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, yes. How can you? Okay. Because I'm telling you, this book is so good, you guys, and I don't want to run it for anybody, but Chris, okay. Yeah. Chris is so yes, I loved it, and I kept.
I just don't know, like, it's just so weird. Like,
how are you skipping parts?
I can't believe people skipped over that, like that. Because Chris, man, his story just, I don't know. It was like really. It was
needed. It was so necessary. It's so right now. It's like if you are.
It shows you kind of like what your parenting. I think that's one thing too.
True.
Is like it shows you what your parenting can do.
Yeah.
Like, and
yes,
and even from Zella's
yeah,
like, it shows you what your parenting can do.
Yeah,
and how sometimes parents, like it was almost like Zella regretted the mother she was,
Yeah.
And it was the same with Kathleen. Like, she regretted,
Yeah.
you know, after she saw what it did to her kids,
Yeah.
then she regretted it. Like, wow, like I really let this man, like, just ruin everything, you know, because I was so afraid of him not loving me like that.
Exactly.
And I mean, I think that's the one thing that, like, in Chris's story is the, you know, like once you have the, you know, the nuclear bomb, he's the nuclear, you know, he's what happened to the people. Like,
exactly.
You know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like how that just shaped his life, because you know, that's because one of my favorite, like I said, sometimes. Like I said, I have to remember I did write the story, but like it's one of my favorite parts in the whole story is like when he climbs into the tree, like you know, that whole, like, I think that's when you realize like this, you know, he is, you know, you realize like I said, the pain that his parents just put him through, like, and it wasn't because of really just them mistreating him. It was just he wasn't parents; they were just terrible parents. And that whole tree thing was just really, I don't know.
They were so well rounded. Like, you could see, it wasn't like you just put them out there to be these one-sided individuals. Like, I like that Kathleen. Oh, I don't want to spoil it. Okay, so I like that Kathleen went where she went and showed up where she showed up because exactly, like, what the heck is she doing here? Yeah, exactly. Like, y'all got to get the book. That's what I loved about her. Like she became. Okay, because there's, you know, we're talking about a woman who's experienced domestic violence in her life and how that played a huge part of her raising her children, and the story, the whole incident that impacts everybody in the story. However, because you kind of you can feel all kind of ways about Kathleen. You can feel like, you knew your man was this kind of way and you didn't do anything about it. You kept taking these hits and blah, blah, whatever. And you never stood up for, I mean, you could think all these things about her, but the writer does give you these human acts. Her going into that place, which I won't tell you guys, I don't want to spoil things, but when she showed up, I was glad that, yes, they was like, what the heck is she doing here? But I was like, yes, put her there. As a writer, put her in that story, make us deal with it, make us see these people. I mean, because you just didn't gloss over it. She became that domestic or that abused friend that you have, that you know that they're married to the wrong person and they're kicking their behinds left and right, and you want to help them, but they don't want that. You can kind of, you know, Kathleen a little bit more when you take her out of that environment and put her in a place. So she's that woman has to now grow up in a world that has given her, you know, all this.
It's kind of like a world that was like, I mean, I kind of like related to like people like today, like I think like a lot of white people wake up and like the whole thing with the Starbucks video today. I think, like, I've had like 2 white people inbox me about that. Like, oh my God, like, you know, like they wake up to this reality that, you know, they never had to deal with. And I think that's what it was with Kathleen. Like, she never had to deal with that reality.
Yeah,
and
she
then
didn't.
all of a sudden, in a snap, now she has to deal with it. And it's like, like she's, you know, she realizes, like, with the whole nurse scene, with the whole, like, you know,
because and that was
the
that
way she responded to, you know, the cop, like the way she responded to Andrea is like, she realized, like, you know, she kind of hints at it, like, oh my God, like she knows what she is, but she's afraid to admit it. Like,
exactly, and
doing all this stupid stuff to prove herself wrong.
Exactly. But I'm glad that she was putting herself in that position, because to me it was like, I mean, she's getting beat up. She's this, you know, her husband's a racist and he's just a terrible person. But yet she
Right.
has to come out of that and notice that she's carrying on some of his behaviors and that she's
Yeah.
got a change to make. And then on top of that, you know, she has a gay son, so she's gonna have a lot to deal with. And I thought that was, I liked her character that you dealt with, like you put her in there. Like some people wouldn't put that stuff. I don't know. I don't know. I really enjoyed everything about all of their lives. Even if you don't
Yeah.
like them, if you don't disagree, you enjoy the fact that this was a full-bodied work of art. And that's what I loved.
I appreciate it.
No
Yeah.
problem.
Because I really did. I wanted to, you know, and that's what I said. Like, I wanted people to get to know these characters in ways to where when it came to the end, you know, you were, you know, when it came to the end, you were just like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
you know, and you want to go back, you want to, you know, talk to him, like, you wish you could just pick up the phone, like, girl, you tripping, like, you know, and I mean, it's just stuff like that. Actually, and I really wanted you to feel what Michael felt. Like, I wanted you to feel that.
Oh,
like,
no,
I went through hell, like, you know, like, I wanted you to feel like he wants to go with you, so.
I know.
Like, I'm telling you right now.
Don't tell it. Don't say nothing else.
No, that man would do.
Oh my gosh, he did. And I loved him. Like, I really loved him. He was like, I don't know, it's like, Michael was like there was a part, I can't say, but when he took himself away from the situation, let me just put it that way. When he removed himself from the situation, at first I was like, man, you kicking my favorite character in the butt. You bringing him down, and he's not supposed to be the bad guy. And I don't like that he's not. I was like, come on now, you know. But
yeah, sometimes you gotta. I mean, because I think we all go through that where it's like, I mean, it's just like we're all a certain way until that moment, and I think that's just what it was for him. It
that's
just kept
right.
building up and building up, and sometimes, man, if you're in the path of that tornado, you're gonna get caught, and that's basically what it was.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you just think like this man went through what 8 years believing he had the perfect marriage. Like, everything was perfect. He had the perfect husband. He had the perfect wife. He had the perfect kid.
And then his background from being a soldier.
Right, and one day he wake up and it's like, yeah, bro, all that was just marriage. Like, what?
Yeah.
And it's just, and I think that's the thing. And you know, to bring it all around, that's what Stephen King taught me. Is that you get your readers to fall in love and then just put them through a whole bunch of hell.
Yeah.
just put them through hell.
Yeah.
And let the reader, you know, try to work it out. Like,
exactly. But that's why I appreciated those funny moments, those moments where you were so into the story and it was so taking you there, and like I couldn't wait for him to open up the diary again, or I couldn't wait for this to happen, or I liked the way that Denise said this, and I liked the way that, and then there were those moments where you were back in there with your little parentheses. Okay, now I would like snap out of it and go, what? Hold on, I'm reading your book. Oh, it's you.
There was some moments I had to get involved. Like, look, man, and you know, it's worse with Zella. Like with Zella, that's when I'm really. I think that's when I'm really like kind of more involved. Because I think Zella is just like like I said, if Angela Bassett reads this book and gets it to the right person, she will win an Oscar. I am telling you, she is perfect. Like
Zella.
Like when people ask, like that's the one character I would love to see on the screen if it's done by the right person.
I would like to see it. I would like to see that.
She is just so over the top, and you know, but like a lot of
she's so dang nosy. I wanted to slap her. Oh my God.
She is so over the top.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but it's understandable.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing though. Like, it is understandable because we're talking
because of the
about
situation.
her child, like you do with
Yeah.
her child, like so
Yeah.
you really can't even be mad at her. It's like,
Exactly.
like man, you're tripping, and it's like, yeah, but it's her child.
But it's
like,
her baby,
yes,
yeah.
it is, but still, it's just,
Yeah.
it's I mean, when you, I think that's, you know, why it turns out the way it does, because, you know, just life, man, life can ruin you, man. It really can. Life can ruin you. I know. I've been through it, man. I was 5 when my father was murdered. You know,
oh my gosh.
You know, right. You know, my first child died in childbirth. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
oh man.
You go through these painful events, and you know, and a lot of times you just really try to keep yourself, you know, sane and keep yourself better, to where, because you know that, like, you know, yeah, life could be bad, but man, life could be a lot worse. Like, I mean, I think that's the one thing that I appreciate from my mom. You know, my mom had, you know, was raising 5 kids. You know, my dad was gone. You know, I mean, my dad had a side chick who had a baby when he died. So, and the lady lived across the street.
What?
Seriously. Like,
okay.
Like, so when you were telling your story yesterday, I'm like, yeah, like, cause I know these pains.
Yeah.
Like, I might not know these characters. I might not have lived these characters' lives.
Right.
But my pain was just as crazy, because, like I said, like,
that
my
is
father
painful.
was murdered. You know, I mean, he didn't die in a car accident. He was murdered. He was shot and killed.
Yeah.
And he had the woman across the street. She was pregnant, and so, like, my little brother, he's 6 years younger than me. He's never met my dad.
Yeah. We are live. Do you want to share all this?
8 years ago.
Yeah.
I just met my little brother for the first time 8 years ago, and it was like looking at my damn twin.
Oh my.
And,
you do have on Instagram where you say something about that you look like a dark-skinned version of your brother or something.
Yeah, that's my brother Kenneth. I got 6 brothers total.
Wow.
No sisters. Yeah, all my sisters are married into the family.
Wow, but you have so many women in the story.
Yeah.
And let me say something too. Comfy Cozy Up says, we'll add this book to her TBR. It sounds interesting. And Joe Smith says it really does. So thank you guys for listening and still being here. And I'm sorry, go ahead. And you can thank them. I was talking over you.
Oh, no, I was just saying, you know, I do appreciate it. Like, you know, to me, there's no better joy in life than to be read. Like, I mean, I think that's people. Some of these writers today, I think they miss that.
Yeah.
And just me, like, I'm not in it like for the money. Like, I got a really, really good job. Like, I really I just like to be read. Like, I enjoy what I do, and you know, and it's just, you know, that's why, you know, you won't see me putting out a book every other month. Like, no, like, I take my time. And, you know, like my next book, which, you know, the next story you'll get is Betrayed, but it's not a book. It's like it's like an ebook series, and it's only like 8 chapters, only like 24,000 words. Yeah. I'm just giving people something to hold on to until next year when my other book come out. So.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah. So I mean, but yeah, I love to be read, and you know, if something big comes out of it, it does, and if it's not, then oh well. You know, but I do try to promote it and get it out there. And, you know, like, hey, hopefully some of these bookground people post pictures, or you know, like, you get book people to do some stuff, like, you know, because I think I wrote a story that, you know, everybody can relate to, and even, you know, like I said, most of the white people that read it love it.
Yeah, this book is for everybody. This book is not just, it's not shot to just a certain, which is one of my questions too, is who do you write for? Like, I know Toni Morrison just boldly always says, you know, I write for Black people. You know, with her, the only way that she can say it. And but this particular book, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I can honestly tell you, like, and it was funny because when the editors asked me, they were like, you know, what's your genre? And I was like, well, I write for Black women. I was like, my target audience is Black women. Yeah. I was like, because nothing happens without going through them first. It's a
Wow.
cycle. Like
Yeah.
if you get Black women to like it, then their white female friends will like it.
Yeah.
Her husband will like it. He'll take it to some executive. They'll turn it into a TV show on HBO called Insecure. And then on Sundays when they come on, Black women are got their boyfriends to watch it. Like nothing happens without Black women. So my target audience is Black women. Like, that's how I look at everything. And I go from
or would you say white woke females like Joe, the retired book nerd? She's a teacher. Joe, the retired book nerd, is one of my favorite booktubers. I remember when her channel first started, her friend, who's also a school teacher, I believe, Joseph, he sent me a message, and he said, my friend is about to retire and she's a school teacher and she's going to start her booktube channel. Can you please go and subscribe to her channel and support her? And I was like, sure. And I went over there and I supported her channel. And ever since then, we've been talking back and forth and of course making videos. She's done shout outs to me. I've done shout outs to her. Just shout out meaning not like, we are somebody, we're shouting it out, but letting other people in the booktube community know there's this other booktuber that I enjoy. And so therefore this is this person. But I've always loved her. My daughter loves her, and her book reviews are amazing. Like I was telling you, I don't know what to call you other than Mr. Eliot. So when I was telling you, one of my favorite all-time books is The Temple of My Familiar by Alice Walker. No, not The Color Purple, which I love The Color Purple, but it's not my favorite of hers. And it does carry on some of those same characters in The Temple of My Familiar, but they're not the sole embodiment of the book. And so when I read that book years ago, and my daughter read it, and then we also read Possessing the Secret of Joy by Alice Walker with Celie's, remember her kids that went to Africa? So Possessing the Secret of Joy is about, remember Adam was like the girl Taji, or I forget her name now, Taji. So that's what that book is about. And it's about female mutilation when Alice Walker went to Africa. And she was just like on this, there was a lot of reports about, Alice Walker was really trying to help and did help these women, or to try to stop this female mutilation. So the book it's a phenomenal book. However, I told Joe, the retired book nerd, to read one of my favorite books. And I was just telling everybody. And so she read the book and did a review. And I told my daughter, I said, excuse me, you need to go watch her video and see if we read the same book, because she's on another level. I need to read that book again. Joe's review of my favorite book is phenomenal. And I'm rereading that book again this year, but I'm rereading it again because number one, there are certain books that I will just reread and like The Beloved. I'm obsessed with Beloved, even though it's not my favorite Toni Morrison book. Song of Solomon is my favorite Toni Morrison, but Beloved does something to me. Like I find different layers, or just to be in her trance again when I read Beloved. And I just totally love that book. It's phenomenal to me. And so when Joe did that review of the Alice Walker book, I was like, okay, it's been far too many years. I didn't get it like that. So now I should reread it. And I love that about her. And she's one of those people.
Yeah, I'm telling you, when I watched the review, like on my book, I was like she was just I was like, wow, like I didn't even think of that. Like it was just so
exactly.
Like I said, like she described the book better than I could. Like,
exactly. That's what she really does.
And I'm telling you, I appreciate what she's done for me as well. Like I said, even though you answered, as well, like I send out like 15 requests and 2 people answered.
Oh wow!
You and her.
Wow!
Like, that was it.
And we got a great book on top of that. And she rated it 5 stars, just as I did. I'm like, I'm not gonna let that influence me. And to this day, I haven't watched her review because I wanted to be able to talk to you or talk about the book at least before I watched her review, because I know that she's going to pick up some things that and be able to speak them into a way that you can find those. You definitely read those layers when you read it, but you weren't able to speak about them in the way that she does. And so oh man, I really enjoy listening to her do her reviews. But there are so many people that are going to enjoy this book. My whole point is, if I want at least just to purchase one book by a new independent or indie author per month for this reading blackout, to get yourselves to number one, for readers to stop, or to stop clouding your judgment or falling into the hype of, which is that negative thing about independent writers, or writers who publish with an indie publishing house. So I also wanted to ask you. I'm sorry.
Well, I want to tell you. I want to tell you something about that too. It's like, I try to explain to people. It's like the reason why I'm not with Penguin House or anything like that. It's not that I couldn't be.
Exactly.
I was halfway through the book, and I remember telling my beta reader who I mentioned in the book, Leah, and I remember talking to her, and I was like, I'm not going to try to traditionally publish this. And she was like, why? I was like, because I feel like I am writing something that could definitely be a masterpiece. I didn't want to give it to some old white man in a warehouse somewhere running a business, making millions, and then I get nothing out of it. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I was like, because I know I could have easily got this book published.
I think so too.
And, And I was like, nah, I'll just do it myself. Because I just felt like, I just really did feel like, why would I put so much power into somebody else's hands and just let them do it? If it was a different story, maybe, but I just felt like this story was just so, like, it was just I look at it like the way, like you were talking about Beloved. And I mean, I look at it like, the way I look at, The Color Purple. I feel like it's one of those type of stories, and I'd be damned if I gave it to, some white dude to sell. Like, no, I'm good.
And change,
and it's not, and it's not a racial thing. It's not that. It's just, it's more of, because they don't give us chances. Like, I mean, there's a book right now, okay, that is, I don't care. People can hate on me all they want. It is the worst book I've ever read.
Which is it?
It's called Behind Closed Doors. It is the worst book I've ever read. And I'm like, and people, I mean, it's just like, how in the name of God was this thing published?
Who wrote that book?
It's crazy. I'm like, I'm telling you, I used to say this, and I know I probably shouldn't say it, but I say it. Remember, I told you I'm pro-black.
Okay.
But I'm like, if you are white with an English accent and a woman and can't get published, you really cannot write. I'm sorry. You cannot, because they be publishing anything these women write. It is not worth a dime. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if I went with a publishing house, it probably would have been everywhere. They probably would have asked Tyler Perry to make a movie of it. But I'm sorry. Like, I just didn't want to put it in people's hands like that I knew, wouldn't take care of it. Like, I'm glad that Joe read it, because I feel like Joe saw something out of it that wasn't tainted by, like, because if I had given it to a publisher, they probably would have tried to say, oh, we got to cut back on this. We don't want it to be this way. But no, Joe got to experience, the story the way I wanted, white people to experience the story. You got to experience the way I wanted black women to experience the story. So it came out the way you're supposed to, have it. And I just did not want to put that in the hands of some dude, that really wouldn't even remember my name tomorrow. True. I'll do it myself.
And that, I remember talking to a writer, Dwayne Alexander Smith, and when I read his book 40 Acres, and I went down to Houston, I talked to him, and he had mentioned, because his book is about these very affluent, well-to-do lawyers and businessmen that are all Black, and they are basically go to this island. It's a very secluded place, and they have white slaves. But throughout the book, it's that whole thing. Like, if you went to a publisher and could get it, and get your book published by Random or Penguin or what have you, but you walk in there, and because you're a Black man, you already got this Black noise thing happening. Oh, they're going to do this to my book, or they're going to do that, or they're not going to see it. Are they going to change it? Or they, and when he said that, and I was like, yes, ding, 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 because I remember telling like one of my sons one time, this is years ago. I was like, the difference between like some people would see me all the time and they go, you guys still have afros. Like my mother had an afro, okay. And I'm still gonna have an afro, and that's just the way it is. And yes, I do change up my hair, but I love my fro. And so um like, why do you have to be that way? What way? What are you talking about? Me? So anyway, I would tell my kids like years ago when I was very young, just to like, and I used to work at a bookstore, and but years for years this would happen where I would wake up in the morning and yes, it's a beautiful day out. And yes, my clothes are all clean. I'm getting ready to take a bath and getting dressed and getting ready to go to school and I'm getting ready to do this, whatever. And yes, I'm Black. And but it was almost like, you couldn't just wake up in the morning and have all these experiences, hear the birds chirping and your clothes are, your mom's got everything. You can smell breakfast and in my household, because my mother can cook her behind off, rest in peace, mommy, but she could cook her behind off. And so I would wake up to those smells, to my siblings and me being the youngest, and everything was right in the world. But when you wake up and you get your head off the pillow, and the first thought you had, instead of all those things, my first thought was, I'm Black. And somebody has a problem with that. That's a problem. That's that Black noise that lives inside of most. I won't say all, because some, people got to disagree with everything. But most people have to go through. You just can't wake up being a girl, a pretty girl, and I'm going to wear my little pretty shoes and my pretty little skirt and pretty this, pretty that, and I'm going to, and oh my goodness, I aced that test yesterday. No, you first wake up going, I'm pretty for a Black girl. Because that's the stuff that gets told to you and puts in your head so many times. So when you have this amazing book, you are refraining to get it published by a bigger house because you don't want somebody to abuse who you are as a Black man. And that's crazy, because there's so many people that are going to enjoy this book no matter what color they are, because it crosses the waters. It's a story, and it's a good story, and it's so well taken care of that it should not have that thing that weighs it down. Oh, it's an urban lit. Let me give you a little civil award.
And,
no.
That's right. That's why I was kind of hurt. But it's funny that you say that, because about like when you wake up in the morning, because that's exactly like how Zendaya woke up. Like, she had to become something.
Yeah.
She woke up and she had to prepare herself to become something before she left the house. And and I think that's the thing. And I think it's more on women in general.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and that's why I said, like, when you look at Kathleen and her story, and Denise and her story, it's like, I think it's in women in general, like, so many women have to wake up in the morning and prepare themselves to basically put on, a superhero uniform. Like,
an armor.
No matter what it is, like, they have to be somebody. Okay, I gotta go be super mom. Oh, I gotta go be super executive. Like, they have to do this thing, and they have to do it in a way to where, like, they can't be overbearing. They can't be loud. They can't be bossy. But if they this, oh, she's this, or she's not, like.
Oh, here comes the angry Black woman.
Like, they have to be this thing all the time, and it's like, most dudes wake up and be like, dang, man, I got a morning wood, or I got to pee. Like,
that's about it.
What's on Sports Center, man? Like, my morning routine, I wake up and lay in bed for 30 minutes debating, like, man, should I go to the gym? You know what? It was on Facebook.
Oh, I know.
I mean, like, really, like, I don't, the struggle that women have to,
there's this internal servitude that women have. And to me, that's what it seems like you're talking about, because I am a woman, so I know this. And that feeling too, especially, I noticed the difference when I was married and when I'm not married, when I'm single and I'm sharing the bed only with myself and have to make breakfast or not for myself or anything. But when you're married, you wake up in a service, attitude. I hope that the
Yeah.
bacon is cooked right, and everything else is to serve the family, the husband, and there are men like that too. And then I noticed when I did not have that relationship, it was just, oh, finally, like this, oh, it's just about me, and I can upset myself, or I can, whatever, get myself out of this feeling or whatever. And just like, I recently retired. When I went to work, I had to put on this voice. I had to, solve these issues and problems. I had to take care of somebody at work. And being in that mode of always putting on that armor, that cape, or what have you, to service somebody else as a woman. That's why a lot of young women who, um, and maybe not even figure out that when they're young and they're promiscuous, that they're setting themselves up to serve, because it's in us to say yes so much. Yes. Well, he asked, so yes, let me give. Or, this is what's being asked of me at work, from my husband, from my boyfriend, from this person, from my kids, to this, everything. We women are there to say yes and service and make things better.
Right.
And it's just a natural part of who we are, so that we actually have to learn how to say no more often,
Right.
and have to have
like
our own voices.
Right, because when they were talking about, remember when they were talking about like giving guns to teachers and stuff like that?
Oh my gosh! And then they start shooting themselves in the feet. Oh, please.
I was like, look, the only group of people that should have guns in schools is Black women, because they are the least suicidal, and they have an ability to explain things in a powerful way to kids without weapons. So those are the only ones that need guns. Like, I mean, hey, if Black women are good enough to protect T'Challa, they're good enough to protect my children. Like,
exactly.
We don't need all that. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the whole the thought, that many of us like really probably don't find until later in life, especially with men. And it's like we just, there's a reason why they say most men like marry their mother because they realize like, what that woman basically had to go through to make sure he made it to a certain age without actually sticking a fork into a darn light socket. Like,
oh my God.
Because we really are that dang dumb.
Oh, like, he said that. I didn't. Don't y'all come after me. That's what he said. No, I understand, because I have, and I used to think about this sometimes too, because I know that's, what Freud and everybody else has said, that kind of thing, where men marry their mothers and things like that. And I have one of my sons who literally, my grandkids look like me for a reason. They look like me because they got a twofold. They look like me because my son, his taste, I have been like she's like one of my best friends of all time. I'm not going to call names here. And then also my daughter-in-law. I can go somewhere with the mother of my grandkids, and people think I'm her mother and not my son's mother. That's how much we look alike. Yeah, I'm talking skin tone, the laughter, the everything. That woman is a mini me. And I was like, boy, you don't went a little too far.
Let me tell you something. My brother is married to a woman who was born on the same day as my mama, okay? Like,
y'all need to grow up.
Like, you can't make this stuff up. Like, I'm serious. Like, that's when, that's what guys do. And it's not, I don't even think it's like on purpose. It's just,
no, I think that's just something.
Right. It's just part of what they know is comfortable to them. And,
exactly.
It just works that way. So, if they have a caring mother, 9 times out of 10, they're going to have a caring wife.
Exactly.
And, and if they don't have a caring wife, it's going to end in divorce.
Yeah.
And, it's just, because that's what he's used to. And I mean, it's just, and I always like, people get on me like, because they say, oh, you're so hard on women. I'm like, I'm not really hard on women. I just think that, women just have so much power. And I just wish, it was something that they could, but they have all this power. But at the same time, they're nurturers, so their natural ability is to protect everybody, not to control everybody. Like, you know, so it's a catch-22. Like, the most powerful people in this world are the ones that care about us the most. Like, and I think that is like overlooked a lot. And you know, because you know we're guys, so we don't, all we care about is, you know, stats and, you know, sandwiches. Like, you know, but,
give me the remote.
You know,
give me the
right, but guys' natural ability, you know, natural thought processes, you know, gain. Like, that's our, you know, that's our natural thought processes is gain. Like, we want to gain something, money,
conquer,
more women, clothes, whatever. That's how we think. You know, and that's what Carlos was. He was, you know, that's how he thought. Like, you know,
Carlos is a hot mess.
Oh man, I don't even want to talk
I don't either. Carlos, because we all know a Carlos or two in our world. I'm telling you, Carlos. I was like, look, Carlos, you're gonna have to start following me around. I'm done with you.
Right.
All right, sir. Well,
man.
In the famous words of what's his name, Birdman, are you finished or are you done? Put some respect on my name. Oh my gosh, that is too funny. Well, I enjoyed talking to you.
I do. I mean, this was great. This was really fun. I'm pretty sure I won't have these common conversations with other interviewers.
Yes, you will. I mean, but maybe not, because I am special. Oh, for real? Oh, so we just learned something. You're shy?
Yeah, I'm like people don't like. It's easy, like now, like you were saying, like, are you watching? I'm like, no, I'm not watching. Like, for real, like, I'm like, it's cool because I'm just on the phone with you. Like,
oh, so you're not listening?
You know?
Oh, well, you would get feedback if you were listening. That's a stupid question.
I'm just on the phone. I'm an introvert. Like,
you know, from one introvert to another. Yeah, I understand that, but you know what? I was always very and I'll just make this point, and I'm going to let you guys go. And I know hopefully this will still be recorded. We're at 1 hour and 56 minutes and 47 seconds. But what I wanted to say about introverted and shy people, because even though I come on this camera and sometimes, you know, like I had a boyfriend that ex-boyfriend told me, he's like, you're really good at that. And like when we would go places, I would just like open up to people and just be talking to them. However, if he's not with me, or if my son DJ is not with me, which me and my son are very close and we go to a lot of places together, he still takes me out to the movies like I'm his date or something. But I noticed that I can be free to, you know, engage with people very easily when I'm with someone that I love or trust, or, you know, whatever. And then when I'm not, I am like too shy to open up my mouth at sometimes, not all the time, but for most times. And it's almost like that stage fright thing that I used to have. I could get on the stage and dance for hundreds of people and whatever. And that was what I could do. And I wasn't nervous. It was a nervous energy that gave me the energy to do it. But when I had to star in a play or play in a play, I wasn't the star or anything. I was in a play one time, and just for me only, I couldn't, it was so scary. Like I could hear my heart pumping. It was ridiculous. I was like, no, I'm good. I don't ever want to speak in front of people. This is not the life. I don't know how people do this. This is incredibly scary, and I can't do that. And even like if I was in an interview for a job and there were 3 people in the room, frightened out of my mind. And if it was one-on-one and the person was, if I felt just a little bit of their unease, I could warm them up. And I always got the job that way. I don't know. There's certain times when very shy and introvert people can perform, and then there's times where we just can't. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I am. Like if I'm with, you know, just like you were saying, like if I'm with like a group of people, like people be like, no, man, you're not an introvert. You always clown. I'm like, yeah, I'm clowning because I'm around people that I'm comfortable with.
Exactly.
But if I'm by myself, 9 times out of 10, I got my beats on, and I pay no, like, and even if I'm not listening to music, I'll have the headphones on. Yeah. And people, you know, and like, so if somebody come up to me, I can just be like, oh yeah, I can hear you. You know,
that's your excuse.
You know, but it's just so weird. Like I'll walk around in Kroger shopping, And like I have my headphones on because I don't want people talking to me. Like, it's just it's weird like that, but I'm a people watcher too. Like I'll sit back, like
I love that.
make it seem like I'm not paying attention, and I just watch people and see their reactions and stuff. So
I do
really,
that too.
Like I don't like crowds.
Yeah,
like, I don't like crowds unless it's the crowd I brought with me. So it really is that way.
Well, I hope that we get a crowd of people to experience your book. You guys check out the website because I had it pulled up and I don't want to touch anything because I'm not sure if it's me or if it's YouTube. So I'm keeping my hands off my computer. But you can visit the website. It's www.DEEliot.com, or is it with the periods?
Eliot.
Exactly. Okay. And his company is Right On Publishing. And I think that's the last question I was going to ask you is, are you publishing your own books, or are other people, since you have a crew of editors and people that, edited your books?
I do plan on editing other work.
Oh, good.
But I'm trying to build up like kind of the company right now. Like and that's another thing too. Like people don't understand. Like it is a real company. It has a tax ID number. Like it is a real company. Like IRS know these people. So,
you're gonna be paying your taxes.
So but like I'm trying. Like I'm trying to build it up. That's why I was like trying to enter in awards and everything, so people, kind of like know, like, hey, this is a company that put in work. And like I said, I just, if I find somebody that I know is willing to put in the work and I can invest in them, I will. But like right now, I think right now the way the system, the way that things are set up, is like a lot of people want to go out there for themselves, and I'm cool with that. But a lot of people, I think, when they find out how, because they're like, hey, man, how do you write? And I tell them straight up, like, this is what you need to do. Once they realize what all they got to do, they don't want to write no more.
Exactly. That's,
because one person, like, because they're like, what is it like to write a book? And I'm like, okay, go get your, whatever book you love the most, get that, go home, hand write it out, and then type it 3 times.
Yeah.
If you still want to write, then you can do it. But
that's true.
not easy.
I think that, and I remember and I just seriously self-published mine, and then I think the last book that I had, it was just a collection of poetry. I didn't write any novels or anything like that. But the last one, I let someone else publish it. But that introvert shyness kicked in. I was like, I'll never do this again. I'll never do this again. Because what happened was I was selling it every single day at work. I wasn't marketing or wasn't doing anything, but I was selling out every single day I went to work. And someone invited, and it was like one of my favorite spoken word poets rather, in Tampa, Florida. And he asked me, he goes, you can't sell your book if you're not, doing any readings and things like that. So he invited me to do the open mic and to do a couple of poems or whatever. I don't know what I said. I did not like that feeling. I hated it. My son, who's like a really good slam poet, amazing. His memory is amazing. He doesn't need his paper. He just can go off the top. He's brilliant at it. And he's an extrovert in the sense that he can talk to anybody. And on stage, he's beautiful. He's simply beautiful. But me, I could not do that. I was like, I don't want to do this again. And then I did a reading at a bookstore, and it was right before or after Elin Harris. And I did that of my book, and I invited my friends and coworkers, and I had my art and my books. And that's the reason, that's from way back then. That's why I had the name Art Books Life. And still, I thought these are my friends. These are people I know. It's hard. And so that part of it I didn't like. So when people would ask me, "Oh, what did it take? How did you write your book?" and blah, 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 this, I was like, well, imagine yourself on stage, because you're going to have to promote this sucker. And and if you like to be by yourself a lot, because to me, everything that I love to do and I'm passionate about, I don't have a team to do. I don't need a team. Nobody needs to paint for me. I'm by myself. When I'm writing, Nobody's writing with me. I'm by myself. So if you can stand yourself to be alone a lot of the time, I'm talking about lonely all the time. I mean, alone, quiet, or just a book and, the audio or the music. I could sit in here and listen to a whole concert of stuff and be painting, but I'm still by myself. And then you wake up in the next day and nobody's knocking on your door. I don't have any friends knocking on my doors talking about let's go here, there, and everywhere, because what I do alone. So it takes a lot for somebody to even make me want to go somewhere with them. I have a select few of people that I do that with, and half of those are my family. So I understand that, but that writing thing is not for everybody, because a lot of people just cannot be alone to put in the work. It takes a lot of work. It does.
If you like me, it's really alone, because I can't listen to music and stuff like that when I write, because like I said, I have to read out loud when I'm writing. I have to hear it in order to tell, like I said, like some people be like, oh, I write the whole story, and then they go back and they add to it. Like, nah, like I have all my beta readers got a chapter at a time.
Yeah.
And I had to, before it went to them, it was the finished product. Like, it was like how I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And, because I have to read out loud and I have to keep reading, and, and it's a long process. And,
yeah.
But I think you get out of it what you put in. Like, I put in, no one can tell me that I did not work hard.
Exactly.
And that's, I don't care about anything else. Like, that's the one thing. When you read this book, no one can walk away from it. Like, even you look, I think I got like maybe 2 bad reviews. I mean, they're like they were 4 stars and 3 stars.
That's those people that were skipping over them parts.
Right, exactly.
That don't make no sense.
At the same time, not even if they didn't like the story, they still could not say that it wasn't well written. And that's the thing to me, is that you can't tell me that I did not put in the work, and I think that's what I'm most proud of is, but the other thing that I'm proud of is just how people react to it, like how it made people feel, and the fact that someone can read this book and tell me like, hey, like, this book was amazing, that it made me think of this, or how I felt. I mean, that, to me, that is what writing is about. Like, that is what it's about to me, because that's how I felt. Because when you don't know how to read, and then once you learn the code words and stuff of how to read, it's an amazing feeling. Like, I feel like, maybe because I started late, but to me, it's like, I feel like I'm breaking into people's like houses and reading their diaries, like, and that's basically the premise, like, how it is. Like, when I read books, I just feel like I'm reading people's diaries, and I'm experiencing life that I never really got to experience for myself.
Yeah.
I'm 43 years old, and I'm doing stuff for the first time in my life. It's just,
that's a beautiful thing. Cool. That's beautiful, because you can find something that gives you that sort of satisfaction later in your life. I remember one of my students when I was training, and I was, I think I was in my late 30s, and she had mentioned, because I was kind of like starting to show, like literally starting to show some of the things that I was working on. And she was like, it's never too, late to start something brand new. And so, you can be as older, and the thing that has always nudged you, your passion or whatever, it's just never, if you just don't do it at all, oh my gosh, the regret that you would have. I don't want to live with that kind of regret. So I would just like constantly submit to art shows, and I would get into every single one of them. And I was like, I'm a new artist. I don't even know where I'm going with this thing, but I love to paint. Have me, please.
And I guess that's, to me, I think that's the luckiest part of it, is that I've never been afraid to show my work. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I've never been afraid to show my work.
Yeah.
I just think that's the one thing that I'm so glad that I never, I don't know, because I always felt like the more people read something I write, the better I'll be, because they'll point out certain things and I'll see how people react to stuff. And, you know, I've never been afraid of it. And like, you know, like I said, the proof is in, you know, the hard work. Like, if you work hard, you'll get what you can get out of it. And, like I said, you ain't going to impress anybody. Everybody, like,
exactly. There's always going to be somebody that wakes up to troll. That person that just wakes up mad and gonna find out something. And there's truthfully nothing to be mad about in this book. One thing I will say, and Comfy Cozy Up, since she's the last person that just commented, she was saying that this was entertaining. Good night. Thanks for coming back with the live shows, Denise. You're very welcome, Comfy Cozy Up, who has a channel. So as I always say, if you guys are in the chat room, if somebody is in there, and you can actually click on their picture and it will take you to their channel. So that way you can find out if they're a booktuber or not, and please subscribe and like them. And also just, you know, just support. And what I was going to say, I think I almost lost the point. That's so sad. That just shows you how old I am. But anyway, we're going to wrap this up. And I will see you guys at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow, Sunday, and we will talk about some more books that I got in the mail. And if you would like to come back, we will ask you the rest of my artist questions. We got through one of those, and obviously we like to talk, so you know, that's just what it's going to be.
You be on the 6th, let me know what time you want to call. I'll call.
Yeah.
All the rest of those questions.
Yeah, if you can give us a call back 6:30, because I do want to talk about, and this is what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, you guys, and this is Two Moons. And this is short stories. Oh my goodness, you guys. Now, at the beginning of the year, I have J for J California Cooper, and so I read her short stories. And Two Moons is by Crystal A. Smith. And this is nothing like you would expect. Another amazing book by a new to me author, and I can't wait to tell you guys all about it. It took me back somewhere. It was beautiful. Yes, right on. All right, I will see you. Thank you, Cece, for sticking around, and Joe, and everybody that was here tonight, Flower Child, and I appreciate you guys. I am going to say goodbye. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Great book.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. And thank you guys again for being here. I appreciate you. And we'll try to work this out tomorrow. We're not going to go 2 hours tomorrow, 1 hour. And I'll see you guys. Love you. Bye. Ooh, it's a new thing. And it says in stream. Oh, the book we were discussing, if you're just here at the end of this, Run by D.E. Eliot. And it's a 5-star read. Bye, guys. Thanks for being here. Yes, I want to end it.